Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 182 of Crunch Time with the N326 Duo. I'm your host, Sam Godsey, and we're doing things a little different this week. Tanner is out on vacation, so I thought to bring in my brother, Eric. Eric, how are you feeling tonight?
We're good. We're good. Week zero is under our belt and ready to get into week one where my team actually plays and then hopefully swing on into NFL right after that. So I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, absolutely. Football is back. We got some decent games for week zero. So let's just hop right into it, Tanner. Week zero. Uh, I think the headliner here is Iowa State, Kansas State out in Dublin, Ireland. Conference game. It was ugly, Tanner. Very ugly. Eric, my bad.
You're good. You're used to it. Yeah, the first half was a little brutal. Jet lag, first game of the season. You know you're going to get a little bit of that, but it was a good one. I think Iowa State kind of surprised a few people, and I think Kansas State expected to be better. I think Avery Johnson.
Johnson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was about to say that name didn't sound right, but yeah, I think he expected to be a little bit better, and people expected him to take that leap from last year to this year. But overall, it was good to see football again, and it was exciting to have a big matchup, ranked matchup to start the year off.
Yeah, I agree. I it was very sloppy, especially that first half. It was like they've never played football before. Um, but I think these two teams are going to be kind of the front runners for a pretty weak Big 12. I think Iowa State has a pretty good shot with Rocco Beck. I think he's one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the country. Avery Johnson needs some help because you could see the talents there, but he just hasn't lived up to the hype. Now, geez, I almost did it again. Eric, uh, what do you think about overseas college football games?
I don't mind it for the week zero, just because I think you give kids opportunity to go see a place they've never seen before. They're normally really good about like the time zone. It's not like a super early or super late game. Uh, I don't want like a week six Georgia Ole Miss or something like that. Like I don't want it to be anything like that. But I will say it was pretty brutal because of how much rain they got, and they were having to like repaint every time out.
Yeah.
Like I think that's kind of crazy just because they are used to that weather there as well as for their football, their soccer. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's something that they're prepared for that. So maybe that was something that they, I guess, weren't prepared for with more lines or something like
Yeah.
that. But I don't mind it. I think week zero, let's keep it that way. I wouldn't mind seeing more of those in week zero, like an Ireland game, like a Germany game, a Spain game, and maybe even do like two teams from each of the Power Four conferences. Again, it gives kids opportunity to travel. It gives fans a reason to travel towards the end of the summer. So I don't hate it for any reason.
Yeah. I think there's been a lot of mixed reactions with this. I'm kind of in the middle. I agree. I don't want to see Georgia play South Carolina in week six in Dublin, Ireland, or Barcelona, Spain. But I think it's kind of a perfect thing for a week zero. It's different. I don't really see the benefit of college football going out there because it's not world renowned. Like they do the London games and a couple other international games for the NFL. I think that just resonates more with people. I don't know if you're gonna get a uh, diehard Iowa State Cyclone in Dublin, Ireland. I just don't think
Yeah.
the brand has a pull like that as the NFL, but it's definitely sweet for a week zero matchup for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think with pro sports, I mean, I live in Arkansas and I could pick to be a Seattle Seahawks fan, but like I'm an Arkansas fan with college because that's where I went, that's where I've
Yeah.
lived. So you don't, like you said, don't get that as much international pull for college. Um, but yeah, I agree. I think next year in Germany is Michigan, Western Michigan. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a lower end game, if you will, but it was nice on Saturday to see two ranked teams that obviously both needed slash wanted to win that game.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool experience. I think Western Michigan, Michigan, and Munich, Germany next year is going to kind of wrap it up for that contract because we got Notre Dame in Ireland, but we got Florida State. I can't remember who they played. Georgia Tech was one of those.
Yeah.
So various teams. So we'll see if they return to that after Michigan, Western Michigan. But as we all know, week 0 doesn't have the greatest slate of games. But Tanner, Kansas is one versus Fresno State's kind of one I want to highlight here. Jalen Daniels for Kansas seems like he has been there forever. And personally, I think he could be a dark horse Heisman candidate.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely not a bad poll. I was listening to part of my take, and it's so close to Jaden Daniels that you may just have to try and do the Heisman for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it was like a close, maybe first quarter, but then they pretty much ran away with it. I think he's starting to hopefully get his stride. Like you said, he's been there a while, but he's just such a mobile quarterback. It seems like his arm has gotten better year over year. Arkansas played Kansas in a bowl game a few years ago, and they had a really hard time containing him. So, quarterback like that, you just hope his accuracy and arm gets better year over year. But like you said, Big 12 is not a super strong conference this year. I think Kansas State and Iowa State are definitely the two top dogs, but Kansas has the opportunity to for sure shock some people.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you, I was watching the game and I jokingly said, "Oh, that's Kurt Warner's son for Fresno State." Turns out it actually was. So
Yeah.
shout out EJ Warner. Struggled Saturday, but still a D1 quarterback, and I'm sure he has high expectations with that last name. But now comes week 1, Tanner. Jesus. Erich. Um, and college football, this is where college football starts. It's where we get Corso's last game. Um, Corso's last game as the head pick. I believe they're Ohio State, Texas. I
Yep.
wonder who he's going to pick there. But I figured it'd be best way to kind of kick off the football season as going uh kind of broad sense conference. You're an Arkansas SEC guy. I'm an Iowa Big Ten. Those are the two top dogs, two top conferences everyone's interested in. So we'll start there and then we'll dive a little deeper into our own teams and we'll wrap it up with pickup. So let's kick it off. SEC. Obviously you have the big dogs that everyone knows about, but kind of give me as an Arkansas fan what you're looking at from the SEC. Who are kind of your top dogs, your dark horses, some front runners for you?
Yeah, I think you said it best with these two conferences, not only us being fans of them, but I think 16 out of the top 25 are Big Ten SEC. So pretty much covering all bases is there. In regards to the SEC, like you said, Texas is obviously number one overall. They're the big dog. Georgia, obviously, in the hunt. I think they've kind of, if you will, taken a step back, but I think Kirby Smart's really trying to push them forward this year to get them back into not only the playoffs but the championship game. Another one that I have high expectations for. Hope they don't win just because it's a rival, but I think LSU this might be their year where everything really clicks with Nussmeier back. Wide receivers are there. Their defense got better. I think a lot of guys that had the opportunity to go to the NFL stayed back, knowing that they have a really good championship caliber team. So, Bama's always, thrown into the hunt, but I think Texas, Georgia, and LSU are definitely front runners and my three to teams out of the SEC to pick to win the Natty this year.
Yeah, obviously Texas being a big one because they have a Manning as their quarterback, Arch Manning. Everyone has talked about him. But kind of give me your thoughts on him. Do you think he's a real deal? Is it too early to tell? Are
It's
people overhyping him? It's like a dim lit road where no one really knows what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think he has all the attributes for it. I think he has a great arm. I think he's fast. I think he's mobile. You got to ask yourself the question, though, why, if he is that much of a star and that good, why was he not starting over Quinn Ewers, regardless
Yeah.
of seniority and what you've seen in the past? I think Sarkisian, at the end of the day, he's going to put the best guy on the field because he's a winner and wants to win. So that's kind of hesitancy that I have now. I will, if I was a betting man, will say definitely would be putting money on him to win the Heisman, just because I think if they go 10-2 and they say lose to Ohio State, he has a decent game, and then lose maybe one more SEC game, make the playoffs, I think he wins the Heisman as long
Yeah.
as doesn't get hurt or just. I mean, I don't think they make the playoffs if he sucks, obviously, but I think he's the Heisman favorite, and I think he just has all the attributes. So I think he'll be really good. There's just that little hesitancy that why hasn't he, started in the past, regardless of having that senior quarterback in front of him.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to bring up. Like, what was the hesitancy? Has he fixed that hesitancy that Sarkeesian had?
Yeah,
Obviously, he had. In Sarkeesian's eyes, he has, because I'm pretty sure he has been named starter, kind of as everyone expected. But yeah,
yeah,
Texas is going to be it's going to be very telling where Arch Manning goes in week 1. He dives right into it, probably the best team in the Big Ten. So I'll just go there unless you have
yeah.
more
You're good.
comments about the SEC. Yep. Big Ten, obviously very top heavy, as it usually is. Ohio State, Penn State, obviously running that ship, kind of the front runners of that conference. But I think Oregon is always, you never know what you're going to expect. And I think there's Ohio State, Penn State by far and away the best two teams. But then you have teams like Indiana, who's coming off the historical season they did. What do they do? I think Oregon, I mentioned them. I think they're kind of that third highest team. Michigan, what's going on with all those allegations, punishments? Does that really impact them? Are they overrated? We'll see about that. And I do think Iowa is up there. I think Iowa has a pretty favorable schedule. They miss out on Ohio State, and they host Penn State, and I believe Oregon, or they might travel. No, they host Oregon. So two of their um, toughest games they host.
Yeah,
So that's huge. Kinnick Stadium, one of the toughest places to play in the Big Ten. So those are kind of the teams I'm looking at. I do think there are some dark horses in this conference. I think Illinois, Brett Bielema, you know him well. Um, I've been hearing a lot of live conversations that they are very underrated this year. Could surprise some people. I have been on this guy and the hype behind this guy since he signed with this team, and that's Nebraska, man. I think it's only a matter of time till Matt Rule has a Cornhuskers where he had Baylor not so long ago. I think Dylan Rayola, as big of a meme as he is a good quarterback. Um,
it's
I
just getting
guess
over that hump. It's just
I,
getting over that hump that
I
they
get
they just
yeah.
have tough time winning that game that they should, or facing a team that's better than them, but they have the opportunity to do it and they just can't do it. But I,
They
I agree. I think
they
they're right
can't
there.
close
Yeah.
games at all. So those are kind of the teams I'm looking at. I think a couple questions surrounds Wisconsin. Luke Fickle came in, wanted to revamp their entire offense to air raid, which anyone that's ever watched college football knows that isn't how Wisconsin has been. Does he make that final adjustment, get the guys he wants?
Yeah.
That is going to be something very interesting to see. But um, yeah, Big Ten, SEC, obviously the two best conferences. I don't think anybody's arguing that. But Do you have any other teams you kind of want to look at outside of these two conferences?
Well, I will say real quick, SEC wise, dark horses, I think, and I say dark horses mainly because with this team, there's so many SEC teams above them ranked and they tend to get overlooked. But I think South Carolina probably takes that jump. I know they're ranked 13th, but I think they're really expecting sellers to really make that big jump from last year. Obviously, they were on the fringe of the playoffs, letting Clemson in over them, but I think they kind of take that next step to stay consistent in the top 10. They're also kind of one of those teams where they struggle early on and then they beat some teams later in the season that they shouldn't. So that's a big one. And then I think Florida is kind of one of those flirty dark horses. They have Lagway coming back. He's also supposed to be taking this big jump forward because he was a freshman last year, kind of got thrown into um, a team that they expected that senior level quarterback to be at, but got
Yeah.
hurt. So
Yeah,
those are
Graham
two
Mertz.
teams. Yeah. So those are definitely two teams that I would keep my eye out on in regards to the SEC and just if they make some noise and win 8, 9 games and somehow squeak into the playoffs, don't be too surprised. But I think Clemson is they're the ACC. There's not a lot
Yeah.
of teams in the ACC that I'm really jumping off the page for. And then Big 12, I think we kind of covered it with Iowa State and Kansas State. I think those are the only ones that really kind of jump out of the page for me. But again, with top 25, 16 teams being Big 10 and SEC, and then you got I think the last time I looked at it, there was like 6 that also got votes from both of those conferences in
Yeah.
regards to like top 33. So I hate to constantly say it, but those are the top 2 conferences year over year. And that's just where major recruits go. And that's just kind of how it is and probably will be for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, especially with how the college football, college sports landscape is heading. I think you brought up a good point. I think Florida is a super interesting one. I think Billy Napier is kind of fighting for his job.
Yep.
I think there's quite a few guys fighting for their job in the SEC. But I also think this is probably going to be the best Clemson team we have seen in a while. Brought back a lot of guys. Cade Klubnik, obviously headlining those guys coming back. I think Dabo could even be on the hot seat if he doesn't lead them to a top 4 seed. I would be shocked if he is still like this is by far and away the best team they've had since Trevor Lawrence, maybe. So some high
Yes.
pressure on Dabo, but at the same time, look at what he's done with his bad teams. I mean, they're
Right.
constantly the main dogs in a very, 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 very small pond.
Yeah. It's a tough place to be in for fans and donors as well because you're not getting to the bottom of the barrel in regards to the ACC. You're consistently the top, even when you have a down year. You're making the playoffs. He won you a championship, so that alone is almost impossible to fire a coach.
Yeah.
Um, but again, it's expectations of they are the top of the ACC. They want to keep contending for titles. Not to throw Iowa under the bus by any means, but you also are you okay with consistently having an 8-win season and a 10-win season and 8-win season and so on
Yeah.
and so forth, but not getting a championship along with that.
Yeah.
So you gotta have to, as a fan, as a donor, as a whatever, as the AD, kind of realize where do we fit into this new playoff situation? Do you want to fire and hopefully get a guy that wants to come in that will project them and push them forward into that consistent top 4? I mean, that's a tough place to be. So hot seat, I think he threw himself on the hot seat when he, didn't love the NIL thing and was
Yeah.
getting freshmen and didn't want transfer portals and all that kind of stuff. But I think he's kind of found out for him to win and at least contend for a title like he was a couple of years ago. It's just the route that, NCAA football's at right now.
Yeah, that's where college football, college sports, and if you're not actively recruiting your own guys in the portal, I mean, high school seniors are probably your third, maybe fourth option at this point for in terms of recruiting. I mean, I think you gotta go especially with the new rules, JUCO, you get 4 years out of them
Yeah,
because their JUCO years don't count towards their eligibility. That has to put high school. Obviously, the 5 star, 4 stars, you're gonna get looks no matter who you are. But
right.
yeah, it's definitely an interesting time for sure. But we kind of talked about the big dogs coming into this week 1, but I think it's time to talk about our own teams, Tanner. One day I'll get this right. Erich,
I didn't even notice at that
uh,
time.
uh, let's talk about your hogs, Tanner. Obviously, I did it again. It,
You're just hey,
it's because he's not here.
it's
Usually,
also 182 episodes
yeah,
of you saying it. So
it's tough. It's a tough look out here. Um, but let's talk about your hogs, Erich. Sam Pittman, obviously coming in this season on the hot seat. You got a guy who has announced that he wants to coach in the SEC. John Gruden came out, I want to say last week. A lot of Arkansas fans are hyped about that. But talk to me about your expectations for this year, because I'm gonna be honest, y'all got a tough schedule this year, man.
yeah. Again, I hate to be the SEC fan that just says we always do, but when you're playing Tennessee, I mean, the last 2 years we haven't had Bama or Georgia, which is great. But when you're playing Ole Miss, who's ranked, Tennessee, who's ranked, A&M, who is constantly in the top 10, yeah, it's definitely tough. Mizzou's has been on the up and up the past couple of years. It's tough overall. And then when you have two non-cons where you're going to Memphis, who is a sneaky matchup, and then you have Notre Dame coming to your home, it's tough. Obviously, they were just in the national championship last year, so there's definitely no games off. To be honest, you can't have super high expectations just because 2021 we had 9 wins, and ever since then it's just been kind of a flat, you're a downhill, I should say.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of flirting with back and forth, to be honest with you, either 8-4 or 4-8. I don't
that's
think.
that's quite the difference,
I
Eric.
know, I know. I don't think there's an in between. We start off with Alabama A&M at home. I think that's a win. You go to Little Rock for the in-state rivalry of Arkansas State. I think it'll be closer than most people think, but just with it being the rivalry, but I think we pull it out. And then we go to Ole Miss. I think that kind of sets the stage for the whole season. Ole Miss struggles early on, as we saw. Shoot, was it last year or 2 years ago when they lost to Kentucky?
Yeah,
And Kentucky's been terrible the past couple of years. So they struggle early on. I think that's an opportunity for us to steal one. And then Memphis is we're definitely capable of beating them. And then you go to Notre Dame. So there's definitely a chance where you're either 2-2 going into Notre Dame, or you're 4-0. And again, you're beaten at Ole Miss, at Memphis. You have a chance to be ranked and bring a top 10 team into your house. So I know that doesn't really, it's like, of course, you could win all of them, lose all of them, but that's just kind of the state of Arkansas football right
yeah.
now. So from there, I just had it pulled up, but at Tennessee. So, probably 6 months ago, we're thinking that's an automatic loss, but then with their quarterback leaving and they're kind of still having some QB issues, that kind of opens that door here and there. And then we have 3 home games in a row with A&M, Auburn, and Mississippi State. So, that gives you an opportunity to where you're getting the rest you need. You're not traveling. You know exactly kind of what you're expecting with your environment and everything like that. So again, there's games and stretches where you can win 3 to 4 in a row. And again, you're not playing Georgia. You're not playing Alabama, but you also have, you go to LSU this year, which is, to be honest with you, probably a loss. Missouri, we've struggled with. So I think that Ole Miss game is kind of the turning point for the year. I think if you keep that game close or win that game, I think you have the opportunity to have a great year. And again, going to what I was talking with somebody the other day with quarterback with Taylor Green, with him being in Bobby Portis' offense for the second year, I think he
Bobby
really is.
Petrino, not Bobby Portis.
Not Bobby Portis, Bobby Petrino, both Bobby P's. But with him taking that, I think, leap, second year offense with him, the biggest question on offense is just wide receivers. I mean, we just have a bunch of young guys, as well as a 33-year-old wide receiver that
There you
was,
go.
yeah, that apparently has been really good, but that scares me that we're even talking about him. So I think O line is a lot better apparently, and then running backs were probably three deep, quarterbacks great. So offense should be good as long as the wide receivers can get open. And again, I think Taylor Green was a little bit of a scare last year, just coming from Boise State. You don't know how he's going to be accustomed to the fastness of SEC play, but now that he's got that under his belt, I think he takes that leap. So, and then going into the defense, it's just we have really a solid group of linebackers. The starting three, depth wise, behind that's really scary, to be honest with you. If we have one go down. D line kind of up in the air. I think we have depth. It's just I don't think we have like a star-studded, starters. And then I think the secondary is supposed to be pretty decent. So, like you said, Sam Pittman's on the hot seat for sure. I think it's one of those things where if we're 5-7, 6-6, it wouldn't surprise me if he steps down. Um, I don't think Bobby wants to take over. I think he really enjoys solely having the offense not talking to media, solely just worried about his quarterbacks and the wide receiver room and stuff like that. But we'll see. I hate that he's in his Pittman's in his 6th year and we are struggling to figure out what team we're going to be and depth areas and stuff like that. But I think the most important position is obviously QB, and I think that's something that we're set to be really strong for. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, you follow some of the hog stuff. What are kind of your thoughts as to being a secondary hog fan?
Yeah, I mean, I think Taylor Green is one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the country. I think he can do it all. I think you kind of nailed it on the head. I think the adjustment from going to what conference, Mountain West or Pac-12, whatever they are now,
Yeah, whatever they
but
are.
going from Boise State to the SEC, that's a whole different. It's not even the same game at
Yeah.
that point. So having him have a year under his belt, I think he could take that next step. A lot of Hog fans are looking forward. Um, but I also think that y'all have some transfers that can make a big impact. I mean, Jaquan McRoy, O tackle, transfer from Oregon. You got Corey Robinson, offensive tackle from Georgia Tech. Both of those are seniors, I believe. You mentioned the running backs. You got AJ Green. What is he gonna do coming off that injury? Um, and
Yeah,
then
he's probably looking at like a third string. I think you're looking at Mike
Mike
Washington. I think it's
Washington,
from Nevada State or from Nevada.
New Mexico
New
State.
Mexico
Come
State,
on.
that's right. I knew it was an N-E and
Yep.
then a state.
Yep.
But apparently he's been the rave of training camp or off season, whatever you want to call it. But everyone thought Braylon Russell coming back, he kind of had his NIL stint in the off season. But with him coming back, everyone thought he was going to be our lead back, and Mike Washington has kind of taken over being that transfer. So I think we kind of run a 1-2 punch. I think AJ Green's role is he's happy to be back at Arkansas. He's going to kind of do whatever it needs to be, whether it's special teams or punt return, whatever it
Yeah.
might be. So I think that gives us another guy that knows the program, is a stud, that is okay with taking on some lesser roles that maybe a running back wouldn't want to be in. But there's some exciting pieces for sure. There's just there's a good amount of unknowns that worries you being a
Yeah.
6-year head coach
Yeah,
going into 6.
absolutely. And I think the biggest concern you nailed on the head, wide receivers. You did bring in a couple guys. Omega Blake
Yeah.
came from Charlotte, had 9 touchdowns on 32 receptions, 795. And Raylan Sharp from Fresno State, not super impressive numbers. So obviously Charlotte, Fresno State not playing SEC ball week in, week out. How long does it take for them to adjust to the fast pace of an SEC? Because you're going to be going up against 5-star, 4 stars every night, every game. Seeing that, and then a couple more transfers y'all brought in. Justice Boone, D lineman from Florida. He is returning from an ACL injury, so seeing how that impacts his return. And then Connie Walker, cornerback from Oklahoma. So I think you nailed it on the head. A lot of unknowns. Um, but I'm gonna need your official season prediction: 8 and 4, and 4 and 8.
Oh, Lordy. Let me just go through it real quick. And
Okay.
I guess I say 4-8, 8-4 is in like it'll be the most Arkansas thing for us to win 8 games, or 4-8 is just that's what it's destined to be. That's how Sam Pittman goes out.
Yep.
But I'm gonna go through the actual schedule, and if I end up at 7-5, 5-7, whatever, criticize me in the comments. Alabama A&M 1-0, Arkansas State 2-0, at Ole Miss I'm gonna say 2-1, at Memphis 3-1, Notre Dame 3-2, at Tennessee 3-3, A&M 3-4, Auburn 4-4, Mississippi State 5-4, at LSU 5-5, at Texas 5-6, Missouri I'm gonna get 5-7. That's you
Five and
know
seven.
5-7. I think we will probably win some games that we shouldn't. We'll lose some games that we shouldn't. I just I got to go with kind of how history repeats itself, and we have a hard time with A&M. We have a hard time with Missouri, and as much as I think they're winnable games, I'm I'm just not going to pick those games as W's. So
Yeah,
final lock
absolutely.
in 5-7, which I think Vegas has us at. I think over under is either 4.5 or 5.5. The last time I looked, I think it was 5.5. So I'm
Dang.
taking the under.
So 5 and 7 is what Eric is predicting. Next, we'll dive into Iowa and then, of course, wrap up with some pick 'em. Now we'll dive into some Iowa football, the greatest show ever. Uh,
They have a quarterback.
they let's talk about that quarterback. Mark Gronowski, transfer from South Dakota State. So we're bringing in a FCS guy, not sending him down once he is done at Iowa. But I mean, he has to be the best quarterback since CJ Beathard in 2016, 2017, or 2015, around there.
Yep.
49-6 as South Dakota State starting quarterback. That's tied an FCS record. Third at South Dakota State in single season total offense. Fifth in single season passing touchdowns. Sixth in single season passing yards. Second in career passing touchdowns. Second in career total offense. And second in career passing yards. So this dude seems to be the answer to all of Iowa's offensive woes. I mean, there was a clip a couple weeks ago of him doing a simple play action rollout 5 yard dump to the tight end, and you would have thought he just dropped a bomb at 80 yards in air. But he's obviously the big key factor of this Iowa team. Obviously, their defense is going to be incredible as it is every year under Phil Parker. But with Tim Lester, Mark Gronowski, and then their two new running backs or newer running backs, obviously, with the loss of Caleb Johnson to the NFL. Kamari Moulton and Jazzy Patterson are going to have to step up big. But there's just a couple unproven guys on that defensive end. Obviously, Phil Parker's probably top 5 defensive coordinator in the country. Ethan Herkett had 6.5 sacks, looking to be one of the best defensive ends. Max Lewin and Brian Allen looking to have their breakout season. Cone Intringer and Xavier Wampa, guys that have seen the field but haven't been the main guys. Those are the guys I'm looking into. But I want to circle back to the offensive side because I saw this absolutely absurd Instagram about the Iowa Hawkeyes, and that is since 2020, the Iowa Hawkeyes are 32-1 in games they score 21 plus points. In other words, if they score three touchdowns and put 21% of points on the board, they have won the game 97% of the time. The only problem, they've scored less than 21 points in 30 games since 2020. Um, it and this article breaks it down. If the Hawkeyes are even a top 30 offense, they would be in the conversation for the playoffs is if the defense is just what it normally is year in year out. And if they average 33 points per game and keep that defensive dominance, they are very likely to grab a 12 uh one of the 12 spots. I mean, Eric, you have seen Iowa throughout the years. Their MO is shitty offense and amazing defense. And it seems like the tide could turn with a smart Gronowski guy.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it for years, just being a secondary Hawk fan. Obviously, Razorbacks are my team, but it would frustrate me as a fan, being that was my primary school, just for the fact of knowing you're winning 10 games, you're winning 8 games, your defense is incredible, your special teams is incredible, your O line is great, your tight ends are great. You still get wide receiver transfers, but the most important, arguably, position on the field to get over that hump to make the playoffs, to have a chance of winning a national championship, is the quarterback position. And I'm not saying he's Arch Manning. I'm not saying he's the Michigan QB or, any Heisman relative quarterback, but it seems like he at least has the knowledge and the capabilities to be an above average QB to maybe push y'all over that little hump.
He doesn't. The thing is, though, he doesn't even have to be above average; just be average. And
Right.
I think we make some noise in this Big
Make
Ten.
make the simple 5 yard out route passes. Just be somewhat accurate. Every once in a while, have a deep ball, and I think that's his strong suit. Based on, I was home the other day watching one of the Big Ten like training camps where they cover each team, and they're covering Iowa. And when he was at South Dakota State, his most completions came from over 20 yards, which, correct me if I'm wrong, you haven't seen that since probably CJ Beathard. So
Yeah,
just even having that capability, where his accuracy is actually the long ball, has to at least be exciting, as well as now you're just hoping and praying that special teams, the running back, tight ends, and your defense are what they normally are, which that's kind of Kirk Ferentz's bread and butter, and has been for, decades.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think this perfectly encapsulates what Iowa quarterback play has been throughout the past 4 or 5 years. Nate Stanley was probably our best, and he went absolutely crazy against Ohio State in 2017. But since then, we've had Spencer Petras, who got booed off. The team basically went to Utah State, didn't start there. Then we got Deacon Hill, who left Iowa, went to Utah Tech, I want to say. And then, of course, the guy who everyone thought was going to be the real deal coming from Michigan, Cade McNamara, is now at ETSU, Eastern
Yeah.
Tennessee State, and has lost the starting job.
Yeah. So
So,
again, I've been to several games, not as many as you, but I just remember those guys, and you could tell it wasn't a coaching decision to not throw the ball, because when they did, it was the simplest of plays that couldn't be executed. So now you're forced to load up, defense loads up the box, you're going to run the ball. They all know it. So you just got to hope that they have that ability to spread the field wide open, and honestly just make those little dump passes and let the O line and running back do their
yeah.
thing once you open it up.
I mean, we're entering, speaking of the offensive line, another strong suit of Kirk Ferentz Hawkeyes throughout the years. We have probably two guys that will probably go first or second round in this upcoming NFL draft. Jennings Dunker and Logan Jones. So it's not like we're coming into the season with inexperienced line and
Right.
experience across the board. So
Yeah.
I think there is going to be a slight adjustment for Gronowski to start the year, as it is with every transfer. You talked about it with Taylor Green.
Yep.
I think the same applies here, but it can't be worse. 21 points. I think that's actually under the league average of what is considered average offense. So
Yeah.
it's going to be very interesting. There are it I would say it's a very favorable schedule for the Hawkeyes this year. Tough matchups. I think we lose some of those tough matchups. I have them going 9-3. I think Albany, which hint, I'll touch on that later in the episode. That's a win. I think Iowa State. I'm debating between three. I think two losses are for sure. I don't know of the three I'm debating between, but as of right now, I've at Iowa State as a win for the Hawkeyes. Then UMass at home win. At Rutgers win versus Indiana. I have as a win. With at Wisconsin, now that's one I'm debating if that's going to be a win or loss. I think the three games that could be. I think we win two or one. Like I could see us losing all three, but I don't think. And that's at Iowa State, at Wisconsin, and at Nebraska. Right now, I have Nebraska being a loss to end the season. But to continue on the positive side, that we host Minnesota at home, I think that's a win. At USC, I think is a win. Um, I just don't think Lincoln Riley is the coach he used to be. And then versus Michigan State at home,
Yep.
I think is a win as well. So the losses would be what I think is one of the best teams in the country and is a huge prove it year for this team, and that's Penn State. I think they are legit this year. Drew Allar, James Franklin, they have a lot to prove. They were extremely hyped up going into last season, didn't live up to that hype, but I think another year under with Drew Aller at the helm, I think that's going to be a uh, a big help. But that is at home for the Hawks, and we've seen some crazy upsets. And then this next one, another game at home against Oregon. I think Penn State Oregon is back to back weeks. I think that is going to hurt the Hawks in the end. And then final loss I have is at Nebraska. I think I kind of mentioned Dylan Rayola and Matt Rule. I think this is a year they get the ship and going in the right direction. So I think we lose that one to end the season, but I got us sitting at 9-3, man. I think it's a
Yeah.
very favorable,
I think
with
I
some
think
tough
yeah.
games.
I think extremely doable. I mean, you're avoiding Michigan, you're avoiding Ohio State. I mean, your two toughest games are both at home, and they're actually you have Minnesota in between Penn State and Oregon.
Okay.
So my only I think people don't believe in trap games. I 1,000,000% think they're a real thing. I view the schedule as 10-2. I think you win either Penn State or Oregon. I don't think you get both. I think at Wisconsin is a trap game. I think he's fighting for his job, obviously, but
Yeah.
going to Wisconsin and then, there's hype around if it's a night game, if it's, a blackout with Penn State coming in, it's hard for college kids not to think ahead, especially if Wisconsin
Yeah.
struggling that year, it's not the craziest travel thing. So it's definitely something that they could overlook and lose that game. And then, yeah, like you said, with Nebraska being a rivalry game and them what seems like on the up and up, it wouldn't surprise me if I think you alternate those Wisconsin, Nebraska. I think you go 1-1 there, and then I think Oregon, Penn State. I think you go 1-1 there. But I mean, it's hard to do 12-0 for any team in the
Yeah.
country. regardless of the hype. But if you're talking about a favorable schedule and your tough matchups being at home, there's, Indiana is also one that's a homecoming, and you're at home for that, obviously. So
Yeah.
you're looking at a favorable schedule. I mean, Iowa State's early in the year, and
I
they're
think Iowa State's going to be kind of like what Ole Miss is for Arkansas. I think that truly sets the standard for this year. I think if we go up to Ames and lose by multiple touchdowns, or if we, I think that's going to be a bigger statement than if we lose by a field goal.
yeah,
But that Iowa State is going to be the game that sets the table for the rest of the season for sure.
yeah, and it's definitely tough too because they're coming off a top 25 win. It's in conference a win that they just did, and then they're going to be playing their third game against y'all, and you would have only played Albany and then them, and that's
Yeah,
going to them. So that definitely makes it tough for you guys, but also rivalry brings out a whole different new hatred and game plan and everything
yeah,
like that. So, I think for Iowa, the biggest thing is that first week is getting your quarterback's feet under him, making sure that he is understanding the offense, making sure he is going through reads and not just first read not there, get out of there. And man, if I'm the OC, I am hammering the pass game and figuring everything out later because
yeah.
you're going to want to at least have some throwing touchdowns, have some big throw plays, regardless of how bad Albany is and how bad you could beat them. You just want to have that confidence for your quarterback going into that next game, going to a rival away game. You want that confidence there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Iowa State is their secondary is a weakness of their defense. I mean, we saw them get beat on
Yeah,
simple fly routes multiple times that game. So that's how I'm looking at the Iowa season. Very favorable, but tough matchups in between. Um, but you ready for some pick 'em, Eric?
absolutely.
So surprisingly good slate for week one. We'll kick it off with the headliner. Texas versus Ohio State. Ohio State is a 1.5 point favorite, but who you got here?
I think Texas is going to be really good this year. I just have a hard time picking them for this first game against Ohio State, coming off a championship, being at home. I think if this was a Texas home game, I'm probably leaning that way. But just with Arch Manning, first game, jitters, going to give me Ohio State in week one.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, I know Ohio State has had some quarterback controversy this off season, but when you have probably the most explosive offensive player in Jeremiah Smith, that's gonna be your go-to guy, and he's that guy that can lead you to victory in big time games. As they say,
Yep.
big time players make big time plays in big time games. So I got the Buckeyes here. Next, we got Alabama as a 13.5 point favorite against Florida State. Who you got here?
Got to do Bama. I probably won't ever pick Florida State until it's a new coach or somehow you can see a culture change. It just as soon as they had their undefeated season, dropped their QB, everyone bailed on Florida State. They got blown out in their bowl game. It doesn't seem like anything has changed. There hasn't been a turn of the tides or whatever verbiage you want to use. It just seems like they have struggled. Their coach can't get them all riled up to play the big games, and if they lose early, they just throw away the season. It feels
Yeah.
like so. I think Bama has something to prove after last year, losing to Vandy, having an off year. I think they're going to be out for blood, and I think 13 and a half will be an easy cover for them.
Yep. New quarterback at Bama. We got Ty Simpson has been there for what seems like 8 years. I feel like
Yep.
we've always heard his name. Castellanos at Florida State has experience, but I think Florida State is cursed till that guy eats the dog poop. So uh give give me Bama here. Next, another fantastic matchup. Another one that's on the same level as Texas, Ohio State could have college football playoff implications when it's all said and
Yep.
done. LSU, Clemson. Clemson is a 4.5 point favorite.
Truly unreal first week. I mean, just even if you cancel out some of these other ones and you strictly have LSU, Clemson, Texas, Ohio State, you're juiced for
Oh
week one.
yeah.
While your team probably plays some little, small school. But again, I talked about, kind of the front runners of the SEC earlier, and LSU has had a championship caliber team. I think this is the best one they've had. They've struggled early in the year. I think this is Brian Kelly's year to really start the season off hot, get that big win under their belt, prove to their players, their fans that they can do it. And I think this is the game that they start the championship video, if you will. So give me LSU.
As the goat Lee Corso says, not so fast. Give me Clemson. I've said it previously. I think this is a big prove it year for the Clemson Tigers and Dabo. I think Cade Klubnik is going to be in the Heisman race all season. I think this is a huge game when it comes to where they get seated, if they get seated in that college football playoff. A win against LSU is a huge resume booster when you play in a weak conference like the ACC. So give me Clemson here. Cade Klubnik, expect a big game from him.
Yeah, I think it's crazy just week one that both these teams, it almost feels like they need this win. It
Yeah,
seems like you said before with Dabo, hot seat, if you will. And then obviously Brian Kelly has,
yeah.
has had the teams and hasn't been able to get over that hump that LSU fans and administration has definitely wanted to see. So it's going to be fireworks
Like
between.
it could honestly be two. There are four players that could have their Heisman moment in week one, which
Absolutely.
is insane.
Yeah.
Feel like this is a rarity for week one, but moving on, we go to South Carolina as the Gamecocks take on Virginia Tech. Who you got here?
I'm gonna take the Cacks. Yeah, like I said earlier, they kind of struggle early on, but I think this is that year that they also kind of take that step forward. Again, they were right on the edge. I think some people even had them and thought they should be in the playoffs last year. But I think with Sellers taking that next step, he's a freak athlete. Hopefully he got better in the offseason. So give me South Carolina.
Yep, I think Lenore Sellers is an absolute stud. This is sort of a revenge game for Shane Beamer. Start out at Virginia
Yeah,
Tech.
I didn't even think about
Obviously,
that. Yeah.
his dad is the famous Frank Beamer, so I'm sure he's gonna want to go BTA on Virginia Tech. So give me South Carolina. Not gonna overthink this one. And then final pick 'em Tan. I was doing so good. I was doing so good. We got Notre Dame 2.5 point favorites over Miami. Who you got?
This is a tough one. Obviously, with Cam Ward going to the NFL, that was kind of their bread and butter, their playmaker for last year with Miami. And then Notre Dame obviously went to the college championship and, kind of coming off that high, a little bit of a disappointment. But I'm going to take Notre Dame just from a standpoint of they got something to prove and want to start the season off hot.
I'm gonna be honest, Eric. I don't know a lot about these two teams.
I
Obviously,
was going to
they
say the
play.
same thing, but I didn't want to say it out loud, so I'm glad you did.
But Miami's quarterback, Carson
Yeah.
Beck.
Yeah.
We all know his journey at Georgia. I don't trust him. We'll never trust him. So give me Notre Dame as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But that leads to Superdogs, Eric. Now, as a reminder, it's very similar to what College Game Day does. We pick a underdog. If it wins outright, you get 3 points to your total, and if they cover, it is 2 point two or 1 points. But who is your super dog of the week, Eric?
So I kind of flirted with picking LSU. They've been a 4 point underdog against Clemson. I think it almost feels like a must make at least not even the playoffs, but make the Final Four. I mean, Brian Kelly, all that. But I'm gonna go a different route. I'm gonna go with a team that I just have the team that this team is playing. No confidence in Auburn this year whatsoever. I think their fans are just outrageous, thinking that they're going to win 8, 9, 10 games. And they're 2.5 point favorites against Baylor. Do I know a whole lot about Baylor? I do not. But It's a Friday night game. They are going to be juiced for week one. They got an SEC team coming into their house. So give me the Baylor Bears to win against the Auburn Tigers.
I like it. I like it. It seems Auburn always comes in to the year with a bunch of hype. I know they have a I'm pretty sure they have a new quarterback at the helm because their quarterback transferred to Iowa to be the
Yep.
second string, Hank Brown. Um, week one is very interesting when it comes to Superdogs. You see some crazy spreads here, Eric,
Yeah. A ton, a ton, a ton.
and I think I'm gonna take one of those. Give
Honestly,
me
let's hear it. Let's hear it.
give me Albany plus 38 against the Hogs. I
Wow.
simply don't see
Wow.
Iowa winning 38 to nothing. I just don't.
No,
I
I think zero. I do think zero, but I don't think 38.
I would love to be wrong. If we
Yeah.
put up 50, I would be ecstatic. The other one though, Eric, God, one day I'll get this
You're just
right.
used to I'm normally just March Madness, so that you know
Yeah,
threw your whole year
this has
off.
thrown me off. Have you seen this Penn State, Nevada?
Okay, so I was looking at that, but the other one was Illinois,
What's Illinois at?
45 and a half.
Against who?
Western Illinois? WIU?
Yeah, yep, Western Illinois.
I
Yeah,
just anything over 40 is tough for me. Penn State, top five, very good defense normally. They have an aggressive offense. Illinois, I understand, had a good year last year, but 45 and a half is a lot.
yeah.
I understand that's only six touchdowns but you could go up, shoot, you go 35, 0 at half, and then be done with your
Mm-hmm.
starters, and it could just be field goal. I mean, so that was one I flirted with, but yeah, Penn State was also one that I thought was
Yeah,
wild.
44. But I just remember last year I did like 3 straight weeks of Colorado as my super dog. They play Georgia Tech this week. I can't see. It must have not been that crazy. Yeah, Georgia Tech's 3.5.
Oh, I
I'm
got
looking
Georgia
at.
Tech -5.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
right. I was looking at what it opened at, but
Oh,
that
yeah,
could be a sneaky good game as
I agree.
well. But I think that's gonna wrap it up for episode 182. 182. 182.
Yep,
Right?
yep.
182. Little switch up. Football is back. We had Eric on as many times as I called him Tanner.
He
It
just
was
misses you. He
Eric.
misses you, Tanner.
Yeah,
He misses you
it's
so
been a
much.
minute, but week one is here. Eric, thank you so much for coming on. But that's going to wrap it up for episode 182 of Crunch Time with the N3260. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and follow on X, Instagram, and TikTok at crunchtime_pod. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube Crunch Time with the N3260. But the clock has run out on this one, but we'll see you on the next one on Crunch Time.